How did Cardiff set up 2 tries against the Stormers by having a host of players pivot around the ruck on attack? 2 of the tries scored by Cardiff in their victory over the Stormers came from having a number of mostly backline players suddenly populate one side of the ruck, by having them both pivoting around the ruck and also running from depth. It's a tactic that made it hard for the Stormers defenders to get their positioning right, creating situations where they are not sure if they should shift or commit to a tackle, as well as being in 2 minds as to whether they should shoot out or stay in the line, creating opportunities for Cardiff to exploit. We start with the second try of the 2, as it was a bit more clear cut. Doing this one first will make it easier to spot the parallels in the try scored earlier in the match. Cardiff take a tap penalty just outside the Stormers' 5-metre line. Basham takes it up. Notice how Mulder does not tend to the ruck and instead sets up behind their next pot of forwards, leaving the scrum half work to Thomas. It would be reasonable for the Stormers to expect another carry from the Cardiff forwards, either from Thomas himself with the pod in support or through Basham, especially as there is a real opportunity here for them to run at some backline players. Instead, Thomas plays it to Basham, who decides to change direction and attack the short side of the ruck. If we pause it there, you can see Mulder and Winnett starting to pivot around with him. Then, as Basham plays it to Mulder, you can see some Stormers defenders deciding to shoot out of line, and others stay put. This is what Cardiff would have wanted. It creates multi-layered 2-on-1s for them to exploit. Mulder does not panic. He draws the shooting defender before passing it to Lloyd, who in turn spots that Zas has also shot out onto Winnett. So he holds onto it knowing Beetham is now unmanned, and he fixes the last outside defender before putting Beetham away for the try. Then in the prior try, Cardiff have a line out deep in Stormers territory. They decide to take it up in the midfield first. Then in the second phase they look to set a similar pivot move in motion, but the Stormers defence did not take the bait, and they were positioned well to deal with it. Cardiff then take it through a few phases to get back to the other side of the field. Cardiff is going to do the same thing again, set up a ruck somewhere in the midfield and then have players pivot around it, in the hope that they will catch a number of Stormers on the wrong side of the ruck, as well as lure some Stormers defenders into some bad positioning. If we pause it here, you can now see the Stormers have all these defenders on the far side of the ruck, while most of the Cardiff attackers are positioned to pivot around the ruck. I want you to take note of where Bowen, the eventual try scorer, is running from. Cardiff layer the attack well, and by the time Jennings gets it, he runs a great line drawing all the remaining Stormers defenders before he puts a flying Bowen away on his outside.